Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Data Driven Value. My name is Mark and I'm coming to you with another market update here. Just going to cover some charts and some news, maybe take a look at a few setups, potentially see if there is some opportunities for us in the near term. So coming in first, we're just going to take a look. We had the CPI report come out today. So markets generally reacting very well to these numbers. We'll take a look at them now. So year over year, we saw the consumer prices raise 2.9%. versus the 2.8% expected. So coming in a little bit over expectation, but not too much. And then we've also got the 0.1 or 0.4% increase as opposed to the 0.3% expectation. Core year over year coming in 0.1% under expectation as well as month over month. So nice little reaction from the market there. We see stocks rallying. We do see bond yields falling, but it is interesting to note that TLT, so the iShares 20-year plus Treasury bond ETF, is actually green on the day. So nice little bounce here. It is kind of holding above this macro low support here. This is very heavy support dating back essentially since the existence of this ETF. So you can see here, I'll just reset that. See here basically all the confluence of this support, and we can see every time that we came down to this support level we bounced. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times we've come down, tagged this support level, and then moved back upwards. So if we zoom back into the weekly chart and we kind of take a look at some of our momentum indicators here, we can see our big money buy indicator has been kind of accumulating TLT. Nothing too crazy. The buys are decently spread out, but we are seeing a decent showing of kind of whales or big money stepping in to purchase those T-bills. So everywhere kind of between from about $100 and then down to about $80, kind of the low about $82. So we're just going to keep an eye on that. And then if we were to kind of sweep these lows, I would likely be looking to add to my TLT position. I have a prior position kind of in this region down here. Yeah, so just keeping an eye on that, maybe looking for that double bottom sweep of these lows before we're able to kind of reverse and continue to the upside. Zooming in a little bit more just to kind of look at our indicators across the board. So obviously on the weekly, we are very oversold. We've got the RSI kind of putting in that higher low here and then curling back up. So hopefully we can get a bit of a bullish cross. As well, we've got our short-term bubble risk. So this is an Into the Cryptoverse premium indicator. You can access it with a premium membership. But again, it just kind of shows us when things are going through a bit of an overheated or a bit of an oversold nature. So obviously, TLT is quite beat down from the high of 2021 up here, as well as the overall high from 2020. So this kind of spike came right around COVID. Obviously, there was a big risk-off environment during that crash. Essentially, everybody fleeing to safer assets. So we saw this huge pump in TLT up here. And then since then, we've kind of just been in this extended bleed. So what I'm really looking at in terms of a trade kind of for TLT right now, pulling the Fibonacci retracement level here from this peak to this low here, kind of looking at this 0.5 level as our resistance. We can see here, if we were to have a long position, if I were to take my long, and let's say we have our entry about, well, let's also pull our Fibonacci here and look for a good entry. So we can see we're actually kind of right at that lower time frame 786 level. So this isn't a bad position to kind of take a swing long position on TLT. Pretty much this would be a bit of a hedging position kind of for myself. So it's low enough where I think if we do go down a bit more, we're just going to come back to this support and then we'll see some buying pressure here. But alternatively, kind of in the event that we do have some unexpected kind of economic downturn, if we experience a bit of a recession, a black swan event, something like that, I do expect there will be a flight to safety again, kind of similar to all prior recessionary or black swan events. It could just be short term, but so we're looking here if we were to enter a long position. sorry, find the tool here. If I were to enter my long position here, I would be looking to take profits kind of 37% move up to this 0.5 Fibonacci resistance. You might take partial profits here and then see if the trade wants to continue running. As for your stop loss, we're just going to place that below the macro low. If you were to use a stop loss, again, this would be a swing trade position. So we want to protect our downside. We would place it kind of conservatively just below this support, and that's going to stop us from getting stopped out of our trade and the market reversing with us not in that trade. So if we were to enter here, I'd be looking kind of building a position between 85, maybe down to $80 around there. Stop loss kind of maybe around $75. Kind of also like keep it below support, but a certain percent that you are able to stomach that loss. Ideally, the reason I use these stop losses is just to protect further downside. I would rather just cut a trade at a 10% loss if my thesis is invalidated, rather than holding that trade and waiting to see where the actual bottom ends up being. So just a little thing to keep in mind there. We might have a bit of an opportunity of a swing trade, as well as it might also be a bit of a hedge trade, kind of to the risk off environment potential that we might see in the coming future. But that being said, TLT, obviously good value kind of in its lifespan. So looking to build that position potentially again from 85 down to about 80. And then last time I was purchasing kind of right here, just sub 85. So again, just looking to add to that position there. And then that is a bit of a hedge position. Looking at everything else across the board, obviously all green, Bitcoin back above 99,000. We see ETH kind of here above 3,300, as well as we see the SPY, NASDAQ, Dow Jones, and the Russell 2000 all up about 1.5%. So really good performance across the board there for the macro indices, as well as Bitcoin and Ethereum. We'll take a quick look at the miners. We talked about these yesterday, so I won't get too involved in them. But we're just going to look here at WGMI, the ETF, obviously. Again, we're seeing a nice little bounce from our 618 Fibonacci. This was a targeted buy zone. So if you did execute some buys in individual miners or the ETF kind of within this last week or so, then you must have got some pretty decent buys here. We see all the individual miners kind of running between 5 and 12%. So nice to see some performance from the miners. And again, nice to see them respecting that Fibonacci golden zone, just as they have done through all these prior rallies. Now, if you did take an entry here, and we were to experience a similar push up to these peaks where we see a quick 2 to 3x move, then yeah, I again would recommend that you maybe take some profits or you use a stop loss just to protect those gains. Again, these are very highly volatile assets, and the gains can be taken from you as fast as they come. So just make sure we're protecting our downside and we're really capitalizing on those moves and taking profits as they come. But don't be so greedy that if a move were to continue, you're going to sit there with FOMO and then you're going to want to buy back in at a higher price. So everything we do it for a reason. If you take profits and something continues running, don't beat yourself up over it. It's part of the game. No one ever went broke taking profits. I would much rather secure those profits as per my strategy, and rather than kind of end up on the bad side of the trade, wondering why I didn't listen to myself and my strategy. So really, it's all about kind of just removing that emotion within the whole market here. So yeah, we have our strategy, we execute it, and now we wait and we see where we end up next, and then we look for that next entry. So we'll keep an eye on the miners going forward and look for some nice entries on them. All right, skipping over to Bitcoin and crypto. Looking here, obviously we'll take a look at Bitcoin on the weekly chart. Looks pretty good. We bounced from this horizontal support with confluence of this upsloping trend line from the prior cycle highs. We are attacking a bit of this low time frame down sloping trend line. So we'll just take a look at our indicators first to kind of see what we're looking at. So on the weekly, we are a little bit overbought here. So we could be due for a little retracement just to get that healthy correction for us to kind of continue to even higher targets. If we were to shoot up from here and break out to, like, let's say mid 125,000, kind of that range. I would be a little weary that we might see a sharp correction. Generally, when we break out and we don't retest these lower levels of support, then the correction following it is a lot more severe. But it can also offer great buying opportunities. That's kind of what we call a blow off top. So just keeping an eye to see whether we get a breakout here or if we ultimately go through a bit of a consolidation phase similar to over here, in which case we're looking to kind of build our cycle accumulation positions between about 83. So even I argue anything under 85,000 down to about 70,000. It's not my base case that we come back and test 70,000, but it is a Fibonacci level, so I do keep that in the back of my mind, and I do have a cash position reserved for buying down here. But yeah, looking just here, that's kind of our broader scale. So accumulating under 83 or maybe mid 80s down to about 70,000 as much as we can. And then we can also take a look at our daily. Again, we see our short-term bubble risk is quite extended, but alternatively, we see our MACD with a bullish cross here. The histogram has flipped green. We see our large money indicator has flipped green. So good for momentum, but we don't see those whales kind of stepping in to buy this dip right here. Also, if we take kind of a look at the volume, we're not getting a big uptick in volume, kind of what we saw through this breakout here. You can see the large buys coming in and then volume following through. Volume's pretty low right now, so I'm kind of leaning towards that this might be a bit of a futures manipulated move. We could just kind of come up here, maybe we retest the prior all-time high, or maybe we put in a lower high again and we kind of continue that consolidation phase. So just looking at that, our first key level kind of here that we're going to watch is about the 91,000 down to about 89,000 level. So a good little place to build swing long positions. We might just end up kind of chopping in this wedge a little bit for the next while. If we were to do something like this, we would ultimately be looking to build our positions kind of down here in this zone and positioning ourselves for this potential breakout. Alternatively, we could see a move kind of play out like this. Maybe we go to the lower high or even the double top here. But let's say we see that, kind of we're going to come back down. We'll retest this level likely as support before we see where the market's going to take us. So either we can go and we can continue that uptrend structure, or alternatively, it might just break down again and we end up kind of back in a continued downtrend. Obviously, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't think one is more technically likely than the other, just because of how the momentum indicators are looking currently across multiple time frames. I would think that we could potentially get a solid breakout of this trend line, but whether that breakout can actually take us to the all-time highs or past them, I would be very I'm not 100% convinced, that we'd be able to break out past those all-time highs before we see a little bit of a retracement. I'm kind of in the camp. Maybe we see a bit of range kind of for the next little bit. We could just see Bitcoin kind of chopping in this range here, something like that, but interesting to keep an eye on. Next up, we'll look at our Bitcoin dominance chart. Here, we're just kind of coming back and retesting that bull market support band on the daily. We do have the RSI curling back down on a kind of heading towards a bearish cross. Our MACD, we've kind of run out of steam on the green histogram, also heading towards what could be a red flip there. So Bitcoin dominance looks like it's probably going to come kind of break back below this bull market support band. We take a look here. I do believe we're in a bit of a wedge. So if we take this here, we got resistance, 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 and actually dating back quite a long way, we've got our trend line here. Let's say, so we got support, support, and support. So looking at this wedge and just seeing where we might be consolidating. So obviously we saw on the daily we're running out of a bit of steam. The weekly chart still looks good, actually quite oversold. So we do have room to run on the weekly. The 3-day chart also just flipped green. Had a bit of a bullish cross right here. So interesting to see. On the daily, we're running a little bit out of steam, so we might, again, just be due for a little bit more chop in this wedge here. So something maybe like this before we're able to break out. Alternatively, something like this if we were to break down. Again, we're focusing on the price structure. So you can see here on the low time frame, we kind of reversed this downtrend here. We had the higher high, higher low, or sorry, higher low, higher high, and then we lost that structure right here. So just paying attention, again, we had a little downtrend on the low time frame, and then also trying to reverse that structure, but ultimately coming into resistance here. So just watching that, if we do get continued lower lows and lower highs, I'm leaning towards kind of this scenario playing out, the more bearish scenario where we do break down. So this will actually be better for altcoins. We need Bitcoin dominance to durably top and change trend on the high time frame before we can expect altcoins and Ethereum to outperform for the remainder of the cycle as seen in prior cycles. That being said, we do have here. So yeah, I think we see maybe a bit of a breakout. Again, looking at the 12-hour, a little overbought. So likely on the 12-hour one day. Let's even take a look at the 4-hour here. So yeah, we could get a little push further up, but we did lose that low on the low time frame with a large bearish engulfing candle. So yeah, ultimately I think we're just due for some more chop kind of in this zone, which is actually going to be pretty good for alts as long as we can kind of stay in here. Some alts should be able to run, some will run stronger than others. So we're just gonna we're not rushing into any positions. Take our time, and we'll just take a look at some of the other charts and see if there isn't some opportunities. But moving on, take a look here at Ethereum, Bitcoin, also a bit of a green day, but ultimately just stuck in this long downtrend that we've been in for quite a while, kind of since the merge. We see it right here. Yeah, so just stuck in this long downtrend. Been pretty brutal since the merge. We do have a bit of support right here through there. So ultimately, that is our current macro low. We want to make sure those hold. There is potential to go down a little bit further, kind of towards this 0.03 ratio. But until this low is lost, then I don't really expect that as my base case, especially if we do see Bitcoin dominance start to consolidate, even break down a little bit, then we would obviously hopefully see ETH kind of starting to outperform. If we zoom in or just look at the indicators, obviously the weekly is not looking great. The RSI is still pretty oversold here, so that's good. We can support a broad move by the RSI. MACD is, yeah, it's very oversold, but the histogram is still green and looks like it's wanting to flip red in the coming days or weeks. So just interesting to note, not a lot of strength out of Ethereum, Bitcoin. We did get this bounce, but then we ultimately ended up putting in lower highs and lower lows again, just continuing our macro downtrend. So next up, we'll take a look just at ETH USD. So again, on the weekly chart, RSI looks good. MACD, not quite too oversold, but we do have quite a green histogram. We could just be due for a little bit of more consolidation. As I mentioned, we've got quite a bit of resistance right through here, right through these peaks. So lots of resistance kind of there. Yeah, not too much there. We did get our swing entry kind of down. We were targeting between 2750 and 3000. So we were able to get a little bit of a swing position in Ethereum right here. Ultimately, I do have a stop loss just kind of down below that support here. So about 2500, or if you could stomach it, maybe like even a stop loss down to about 2200 underneath these lows, and that's just going to protect that position a little bit better. We can kind of take a look here. Let's look at our short-term bubble risk. All right, yeah, again, overheated, just due for a little bit of consolidation. We could just see something maybe like this playing out, where we've got this trend line here, obviously coming through support, and then maybe we just chop through here, looking to build again swing positions in this region here. These are swing positions, so these are higher risk. Generally, I like to protect these kind of positions with a stop loss. If we were to break below this structure here, then I would want to be out of this trade, just due to the fact that the likely path after that is continued downtrend, just due to the price action. So yeah, when we lose these key levels of support, generally we will go back and retest them. We can regain them under the right conditions, but a lot of the time you'll see something kind of like this, where we just have those, again, lower highs, lower lows, and that's just a technical downtrend. And we're going to wait for that to bottom out, wait for that structure to reverse, switch to those higher lows and higher highs, and then we're going to ride that position back up. So short term, looking for a swing position in ETH, again, between $2,750 and $3,000 if we do have that opportunity, but also recognizing that it is slightly riskier position. Looking at total 3, we see here again, similar on the weekly, a little overbought, or a little overheated kind of on the short-term bubble, as well as the MACD. Our RSI looks all right, just kind of approaching that overbought territory, but not quite there yet, with a little bit of a bullish cross. We can see these 3 levels here. Basically, you can see how when total 3 broke out, we ultimately came and retested these levels. Apart from what we saw here. So see kind of this breakout of resistance, came back, retested it. We broke out again. We kind of ranged for a bit, retested that prior all-time high resistance. And again, we're in a similar move here. So I've pulled the Fibonacci retracement. We're looking at a 618, kind of right around that prior all-time high. So I think if we do see total 3 kind of coming back within this zone here, retesting this prior all-time high, it might present some decent opportunities to start building alt positions. Yeah, just looking at the prior price action and seeing how it retested those highs. And yeah, so just keeping our eye out on that 618. We'll see if we get our entries down there. Taking a look at others' market cap, similar to total 3, looking a little stronger, more overheated on the weekly. Interesting to note. We do look pretty good on the daily chart for MACD. It's heading towards that bullish cross with a slowdown of the red histogram. We've got that bullish cross on the daily RSI. A little bit of volume coming in, but not quite the uptick of volume that we saw over here. But interesting to note, we're coming into resistance. We did actually come into resistance there, in a bit of a consolidation phase. So we were able to take out the higher or the lower low here, and then the higher, and then we printed a higher high. But ultimately, we've now put in a lower low and another lower high on the low time frame. So we'll zoom in even further to our 4-hour, where we can see we're looking a little overheated, especially if we zoom into our 1 hour. So 1 hour and the 4-hour, we're a little overheated. Don't know if we're going to have the steam to kind of come up and attack these upper resistance levels. We might just see something like this, like if this is our top, or maybe we get a little bit more push kind of up to that 618. We want to see this low here holding. So ideally, we either get a double bottom, or we get, in the best case scenario, a higher low. That just gives us the best chance to maybe attack this high now and kind of, again, reverse that structure. But as we see here, we're coming into resistance on this breakout. So we're not rushing to enter any positions here. We do see on the even lower time frame this little downtrend breakout. So if you're looking for a swing position and this were the top, I would probably look in kind of, if we came back down to this 322 billion level for total 3, or for others, sorry. So yeah, looking for here, this is where we would take a swing long, retest of that down sloping trend line, and then ideally hoping to catch a short-term move up. but ultimately recognizing that we do have some excess risk here, and we're probably unlikely to take out these highs right away, and then we again just might be due for a bit more consolidation. Looking at others' dominance, so this one is another representation kind of some of the lower market cap altcoins. It's also just in this wedge, been chopping in it for a while, currently contesting with the bull market support band. Looks to be flipping red here on that retest, so that's a bit of bearish price action. RSI and MACD both slowing down a little bit, so interesting to see there, but likely expected to just break down a little bit further. Taking a look at the alts, we can just skim through the charts real quick here. I'll look at the daily to see if we can't find some opportunities here. So looking at injective, coming into resistance. We're going to ignore this one for now. Again, we don't want to buy into resistance on an update, essentially. We want to do our buying when things are cheap. So we're just going to wait, see where this maybe tops out, and then we might look for our next best entry. Might see something kind of play out like this. We go up, come back, retest the bull market support band, and then continue higher. In which case, you're going to wait for that retest, that higher low, and then that's going to be your entry right there. Moving on, we've got Celestia. So Celestia has been a great one. We've been accumulating this one. I've been sharing it kind of in ITC as well as the time has been going on. So we'll look at it on the high time frame and kind of get an idea of this trade here. So we saw this huge outperformance when Celestia launched, and then followed by this massive downtrend. That massive downtrend, actually, it ended up being a bit more than that Fibonacci retracement. So it still managed to hold the macro low, which was what we wanted to see. But you can see we kind of broke below that 786 level, and then we've just been chopping kind of in the golden zone. We're still just above our entry kind of here, but we are stuck under that bull market support band. But interesting to note, this looks like a decent kind of long-term accumulation zone for Celestia if you're bullish on it. Yeah, so looking here, anything kind of, I would say, in that region here is going to be a decent long-term area to buy Celestia on a cycle hold basis. That being said, we do recognize that there can be some short-term volatility. I would highly recommend maybe placing a stop loss just down here in this position, just in case that we do go below that and ultimately we lose this low, and then we'll have to go into price discovery to the downside and then wait until we find proper bottom structure. Looking at Pith, a little bit of a laggard today. Not liking that price action really. Huge sale rate here from some whale, probably dumping a massive position. Pith is just the oracle on Solana, so it's definitely, you can catch a bit of Solana hype. I traded Pith a couple times through this cycle, as well as I was a staker and earned some airdrops, so I got some value out of Pith, but not really liking that price action. We can see that massive breakdown, retest, bearish engulfing candle, and continued breakdown. So we've kind of lost, we've lost these lows here with that. So I would look, maybe we're looking at a sweep of these lows here, J, and then worst case scenario, if we were to see an 11-cent Pith and you're bullish on Solana or you're bullish on Pith, then you would be looking to accumulate kind of down here between these two levels. Next up, we've got AIOZ. So it looks really good. We had this downtrend breakout. Remove that. Yeah, came back to our 786 perfectly, executed our buys, rode it back up, obviously moving there. We went up 300% from that 786. So a really good move by AIOZ. Now we're just going to take a look at the next Fibonacci retracement that we pull, kind of similar to what we did the prior time. We're looking here at about a 75-cent down to a 58-cent AIOZ. And we can also see that confluence of some horizontal support and the bull market support band. So AIOZ, I'm looking to add more kind of down here under 75 cents if I get the opportunity. We can zoom in a little bit, kind of just see if we get a better idea of the near term. Go got resistance here. So again, the buying you would have wanted to do would have been down here. There's a few opportunities you could see on the high time frame Fibonacci that we came down kind of to right around that golden zone. You can also see on the lower time frame Fibonacci that we came through to that golden zone again. Kind of similar to the last chart, we wicked down a little bit through it, but we did find support at the bull market support band just underneath it. So that's often why I look for confluence of support when I'm looking at my technical analysis. The more levels of support you have stacked at a certain region, the more likely you are to get a bounce or a reaction from that zone. But we can likely expect AIOZ to potentially move up another 15% to that trend line. If that were to play out, then our Fibonacci would look something like this, and we would look to get our entry here. That would be our later curve, higher risk swing entry, anywhere from about 92 cents down to about 86 cents. So yeah, looking for a 92 cent down to 86 cent for that short-term swing position on AIOZ. Otherwise, looking for that higher time frame golden zone retracement at sub 75 cents. Ondo, another big outperformer kind of for different parts of this cycle. I'm guessing if we pull this, we will likely see our Fibonacci retracement. Yeah, so we came back, tagged that 618 as well as the bull market support band. We're holding that higher low. We've actually taken out this high here, which is nice to see. So yeah, I really want to just see some strength from Ondo here. We want to see him kind of come up and continue to take out these highs, keeping that uptrend structure. One thing to keep in note is that Ondo does have major token unlocks, so they can have an effect on price. Just one thing to keep in mind, I personally do not have a position in Ondo. I have been swing trading it here and there throughout the cycle, but as it stands right now, no position in Ondo, kind of just due to those token unlocks and then opportunities elsewhere. Looking at Doge, again, Doge has been a very obvious high, not even a great performer for most of the cycle. Really, just since Elon started talking about the Department of Government Efficiency, we've seen it kind of rocket up here. But then we did see a large retracement back to our Fibonacci level, I believe. We'll pull this here. Yeah, so we did see it come back to that 618. Again, that's where we wanted to do our buying. That's where I bought some Doge, added to my bags that I was previously accumulating kind of in throughout the bear market. Doge, relatively, in talking of meme coins, it is the safest meme coin. It's been around longer than Ethereum. And then especially now with that Elon effect, definitely I think there is a future for Doge. I don't think it's going anywhere. Some people say it's going to zero like all meme coins, but I would argue Doge is kind of its own beast just due to the age and yeah, the age, the meme, as well as the support from Elon. I will also warn you that this Elon effect sometimes can have a negative impact. We did see when he went on SNL last cycle, that actually marked the top for Doge at 75 cents roughly. And then we experienced a massive downward crash. I actually ended up getting caught kind of on the bad side of that trade, admittedly. I kind of thought like everyone else, as soon as Elon started pumping it on SNL, that we were just going to go to the moon. But I learned that I shouldn't just make assumptions and rather kind of base my entries on technicals rather than trying to trade news events. So again, we're just positioning ourselves here at the 618. We see this rally play out, so we've pulled the next Fibonacci golden zone, and then we've executed our second entries down here, and those are off and doing well already. So looking at that, we also see some resistance right here. So yeah, coming right into resistance on the 4-hour. Slowing down a little bit on our momentum indicators. Again, I just think we might be due for more chop consolidation. I don't think markets are quite ready to convincingly break out yet. Looking at Pepe. Pepe is another favorite of mine for meme coins this cycle. I do believe it will be the SHIB of last cycle. So we saw Doge performing very well, and then essentially everybody sees the money being made in Doge and they want to find the next best thing. So last cycle they had SHIB. This cycle we've got Pepe. Pepe is actually a more notable meme than SHIB or Doge, in my opinion, in kind of internet culture. But again, we see here We've pulled our Fibonacci levels. We buy in our 618, and then we sit in those, and then it also came back down to our support zone that we've marked here. That was actually a low time frame Fibonacci golden zone kind of there, as well as horizontal support. And we see acting well there, reversing to the upside. So Pepe looks good. If you were looking for an entry, I would look to kind of get in on a retest of this higher low here. So if we see it come up kind of into resistance, come back here, retest the bull market support band, print that higher low, then you might look to take a swing position right here, just with a stop loss protecting kind of any major downside if it is a short term or swing position. Looking at Solana, so here again, another one I really liked. On the high time frame, we had this large downtrend breakout. I'll reference here. Again, we see we had our wedge, rising wedge, broke out 618786 golden zone retrace, kind of came just back below in our wedge before recovering, and then we're off, and that trade is still running now. We're kind of just above our entry here in the middle of the zone. So sitting on that and waiting to see what happens. We do have a stop loss just underneath these support levels to protect any downside should it come. You can also see we've got the volume shelf here stacked nicely. So we do have a good bit of confluence of support kind of in this zone right here, and looking to just hold that stall position. Otherwise, if we do see it kind of come back into this zone here, maybe holding those lows, then we might look to add a little bit. Otherwise, we might just look to continue holding the position we have. Looking at Avalanche. Okay, so similar thing, we're in this wedge. RSI looks good. MACD looks a little overbought there, but that's on the weekly chart. So if we zoom into the daily, bullish cross on the RSI. MACD looks good, about to be a bullish cross, and the histogram looks like it wants to flip red. Bouncing from that 618 Fibonacci again from this bull market support band. And yeah, just coming up into this resistance. We want to see how it reacts with this resistance first, just because we do have a bit of confluence there. So we've got that horizontal as well as we've got that down sloping resistance here. Yeah, just watching AVAX, but ultimately looking for an entry if in a swing basis on the near term between $30 and $35 might be a decent entry. Moving on to Link, similar. A lot of these are going to be very similar price action kind of things. So we're going to pull a lot of our fib levels and kind of show you how these react. So again, we came into that 618 golden zone, and then we've got a little reaction there, but we do see us coming into resistance again on that down sloping trend line. MACD looks very oversold, a little bit more compared to the others, and the RSI looks good. So I do think we can get a bit of a breakout here, in which case we're going to look to enter on that higher low, assuming that the market structure still looks good. Looking at Arbitrum, similar thing. It's going to be at that 618, kind of, yeah, not as strong as some of the others. Still a little bit to go into resistance, but yeah, not actionable right now in my opinion. Optimism looks the same. They're pretty similar, not similar projects, but they're both Ethereum L2s. So the charts, I'm not surprised, look quite similar. Looking at NEAR, same thing. We are in that kind of downtrend structure, so not really looking at entering anything right here. If you were looking for that swing position, you could take a riskier trade here, but again, we're going to come into that down sloping resistance, and I'm not really in the business of buying into resistance. It's just asking to buy a falling knife, in my opinion. Atom, same thing. So yeah, lots of these charts are looking quite similar. For now, we're kind of just going to let things play out and see where these rallies top out, and then we'll pull our Fibonacci levels and go from there and come up with some better setups for you guys. But I hope you're able to learn a thing or two, kind of just how I approach different charting techniques, different levels of support that I'm watching, as well as the use of those Fibonacci tools. You can see how often they do act as very strong support. So if you learned something today or you enjoyed the content in the video, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. I greatly appreciate all the support, and I look forward to all the coming videos. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Bye.